Hey there, welcome to the College Investor Audio Show and a very timely show we have for you today as we talk about this new Congress plan to change student loan repayment plans. Before we get to it, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button so you're always up to date when we post new content, and we do pretty regularly. You can also check out thecollegeinvestor.com if you want to dive deep into all things student loans, grants, all the kind of stuff. You can find it again at thecollegeinvestor.com. All right, let's take a look at this. So, the latest reconciliation bill set for review in the House Committee on Education and the Workforce proposes some of really the most extensive changes to higher education funding and student loans in decades. This is the papered proposal, by the way. It's not law yet. I cannot say that enough. This is not law yet. But if this is enacted, the legislation would limit federal borrowing, end Parent Plus loans, change repayment plans entirely, and reshape Pell Grant eligibility. The changes would primarily affect new borrowers taking out loans after July 1st, 2026. But there are some changes that would take effect as soon as the bill is signed into law, if it is passed and all that kind of stuff. It's important to remember that this is the first workup of proposals, like the rough draft, if you will, that are actually in print. So not all of these are going to make the final bill, and even then, they're going to change, probably. That being said, though, many of these proposals do mimic what was already proposed under the College Cost Reduction Act, and many of them are really popular topics for Republicans for the most part. Let's break it down, shall we, of some of the major proposals, though there are many others as well. I mean, the bill's like 100 and plus pages long. There's a lot to cover, but we'll do it in just a few minutes. All right, so here are the new student loan limits and the end of PLUS loans. There are a myriad of changes to student loans that impact borrowers. Let's talk about the limits first. The proposed legislation sets new caps on federal student loan borrowing. The annual limits would turn into an individual-specific calculation and would vary by program, too. New cost of attendance calculation minus any Pell Grant awarded to the student. The maximum aggregate amount a student loan could borrow for an undergrad degree would be $50,000. And that would also be the parent loan matching limit, as described in just a little bit. The maximum limit a graduate student could borrow would be $150,000 for a combined lifetime limit of $200,000, including both undergraduate and graduate debt. Colleges would also gain some new authority to impose their own lower loan limits for programs at their discretion, provided that they apply the limits equally across all students in a program. Let's talk about the elimination of PLUS loans, too. The bill would end Grad Plus loans starting in the 2026-27 school year. It would also end the Parent Plus loan program. Parents would only be able to borrow an amount equal to the student's borrowing, as long as the combined annual amount is less than the cost of attendance. A quick note here, for borrowers already in school, there is a 3 academic year grace period before this change goes into effect, as long as you've already received one of these loans. Now let's talk about the elimination of subsidized loans. The proposal seeks to end all of these types of loans for new borrowers after 2026. Note, for borrowers already in school, there's the 3-year academic grace period before this change goes into effect, as long as you've already received one of these loans. It's all good. Let's talk about cost of attendance. This is pretty big. Finally, the calculation for cost of attendance is also set to change, starting with the 26-27 school year, to a formula called the median cost of college of the program of study of the student. Catchy. This program would be the median of the program across all colleges that offer the program. Hope that makes sense. I know, kind of confusing. You can see links to all this stuff at thecollegeinvestor.com right inside this article, by the way. All right, so let's move on to repayment plan changes, too. There's another major shift here, just with repayment. For loans issued after July 1st, 2026, borrowers would no longer be offered current income-driven repayment options like the IBR, ICR, or PAY. Instead, they would primarily be steered into a standard repayment plan. Only limited repayment assistance would be available for those facing hardship. For borrowers already in repayment before July 1st, 2026, the existing plan options would generally remain in place. No worries there. Let's talk about that standard repayment plan, by the way. The new standard repayment plan would be a tiered repayment approach. So all those extra repayment plans are kind of inside the standard repayment plan. Loans under $25K, 10 years. Loans $25,000 to $50,000, 15 years. Loans $50,000 to $100K, 20 years, and you have 25 years to pay loans over $100,000. These plans pay off the full principal and interest over the time period based on the loan balance. Let's talk about that income-based repayment assistance plan. This is a version of income-driven repayment that is designed to replace the existing plans. It is complex. There's really no easy way to describe it, other than to simply highlight what the law actually says. Your monthly payment will be based on your adjusted gross income, or your AGI, with some calculations. I am not going to provide the list of calculations. You can see it inside this article at thecollegeinvestor.com. You have questions? Follow us on social media. We're pretty much anywhere you are, too. So you can ask questions directly to us. Here's how they calculate the monthly base payment. You divide the applicable base payment by 12, because that's the monthly amount, right? Then you subtract $50 for each dependent child, a child under 17 living with you and supported mostly by you. Apply minimums and limits. If the result is less than $10, your monthly payment is $10. If your total remaining loan balance, principal plus interest, is less than the calculated amount, you just have to pay the remaining balance. That's it. Okay, I know, that's confusing, so here's an example. AGI, let's just say, is $25,000 and you have 2 dependents, children. Your base payment equals 2% of $25,000 or $500. Your monthly is $500 divided by 12 minus $100, $50 times 2 dependent children, which would equal $41.67 minus $100 equals negative $58.33. Well, since it's below $10, your payment is just $10 a month. Another example for an AGI, kind of more in line with the median AGI, $60,000, and you have no dependent children. So your base payment is 5% of $60,000. That's the tiered approach, the graph that I'm not going to mention because it would be too confusing in a podcast audio setting. So 5% of $60,000 is $3,000. Your monthly is $3,000 divided by 12, or $250 a month. Payment's $250 since it's above $10. That's it. That's pretty simple. Let's talk about loan forgiveness, as if you're not confused enough. You keep making monthly payments until one of these things happen. Number 1, your loan balance reaches $0. Congrats, you just paid off your loan. Or number 2, you've made 360 qualifying monthly payments. So that's 30 years. Let's say it was just that $10 a month because you made $25,000 AGI, 2 dependent kids, all that kind of stuff. Payments are required every month, unless you're in an approved deferment or even a forbearance period. After you've made that 30 years of monthly payments, any remaining balance is forgiven, canceled by the government, as long as you participated in the repayment assistance plan at any point, or your most recent payment before forgiveness was under this plan. So this plan, called the Repayment Assistance Plan, is also eligible for public service loan forgiveness. You can find out more about that, again, inside this article. Let's talk about this negative amortization real quick. There is no negative amortization. So negative amortization happens when your payment doesn't cover the interest. And the unpaid interest just gets added to your loan, which makes it grow. Here's why this doesn't happen. There's an interest subsidy. If your monthly payment is less than the interest that accrues, the government waives the unpaid interest. It's just not added to your loan. Banks do this. The government will not. The principal reduction help also, if your payment reduces your principal by less than $50 after covering interest and fees, the government adds an extra reduction to your principal, up to $50 or your payment amount, whichever is less. Quick example. Let's say you pay $40, but the interest is $100. Yikes. $40 goes to interest, the remaining $60 is waived, not added to your loan. No payment goes to principal, so the government reduces your principal by $40, lesser of $50 or your $40 payment, right? Your result is your loan balance shrinks by $40, even though your payment was less than the interest. Pretty cool. Since unpaid interest is forgiven monthly and your principal can still decrease, your loan balance never grows because of unpaid interest. Let's move on to eliminating economic hardship and unemployment deferments. This is scaring some people, but let's explain real quick. Economic hardship and unemployment deferments would also be eliminated for new loans. Borrowers would instead have access to limited forbearance options capped at 9 months within a 2-year period. Interest subsidies during medical or dental residencies would be time limited as well. So the goal is to get borrowers into the repayment assistance plan and repaying their loans as quickly as possible. Now let's talk about the Public Service Loan Forgiveness or PSLF changes. Future medical and dental residents would lose PSLF eligibility unless they had borrowed prior to June 30th, 2025. This is done by eliminating residency as a qualifying employment. The term public service job does not include time served in a medical or dental internship or residency program, as such program is described in section a lot of letters and numbers, by an individual who, as of June 30th, 2025, has not borrowed a Federal Direct Plus loan or a Federal Direct Unsubsidized Stafford loan for a program of study that awards a graduate credential upon completion of such program. Basically, they're saying it's not public service because you're getting a reward for it, right? PSLF borrowers would now have to use the Repayment Assistance Plan. Loan rehabilitation is the next topic. We're almost done, I promise. New changes will allow loan rehabilitation to get borrowers out of default to happen twice, not once. Moving on to Pell Grants and workforce grants, the bill would change the way Pell Grants are awarded by imposing a new limit based on the Student Aid Index, SAI, not just income. A student would not be eligible for a Pell Grant if their SAI is over a certain threshold, even if their family income would otherwise qualify. The goal here is to prevent Pellionaires. You want to find out more about that? It's interesting. Inside the article at thecollegeinvestor.com, it would also create a workforce Pell Grant for students enrolled in eligible short-term vocational programs. The workforce Pell would offer funding for non-degree programs that meet specific federal criteria, expanding Pell access beyond traditional colleges. The changes seek to target Pell aid more tightly for students with the greatest financial need and to support workforce training programs aligned with growing labor market demands. One more topic and then some final thoughts and we wrap up for today. Providing loan servicers more funds. Recognizing this whole big administrative complexity of all the changes, the bill would actually increase funding for student loan servicing. Servicers would receive higher payments per borrower to help manage the transition to new loan rules and repayment options. In addition, the bill would impose stricter limits on the Department of Education's authority to issue major regulatory changes affecting loan programs without explicit congressional approval, limiting unelected bureaucrats from making sweeping changes to stuff. It's got to go through Congress. All right, some final thoughts here. Yeah, a lot of changes to higher education, and it can be considered massive. These changes impact both how families will pay for college and how borrowers are going to get out of debt. It's important to note, though, that these changes would only apply to loans made after July 1st, 2026. So existing borrowers would be grandfathered into their program, so to speak. Furthermore, the new RAP would be eligible for PSLF, which is good news for pursing public service jobs. Okay? There are also some really good aspects of this, like the expansion of no negative amortization and the new workforce grants, which are huge. However, the new RAP is very complex. Huge. I think borrowers are going to struggle to navigate through this plan. Servicers are going to struggle to help borrowers with it, which could be very detrimental, at least for a bit, until you get used to it. It's going to be important to see how and what Congress does with these plans moving forward. We got some more stuff. You can dive deep into this topic. A lot of great info for you at thecollegeinvestor.com. You can get in contact with us, ask any questions you have, concerns. Let us know. We'd love to get to know you and help you along in your journey. with all things money, not just student loan stuff. But you can find us. We're all over social media. Just search for The College Investor. We'd love to talk to you. Thanks again for stopping by today, and we'll talk to you again real soon.